Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. It's the Teebs and KidPhoenix versus podcast, and we're coming live and direct from Riverside FM Studios, Riverside Mofos. And let's face it, it's the holiday season, and we here at the Teebs and KidPhoenix podcast decided to end the year on a bang, since this year it has its ups and downs. And we're just going to end this thing bigly, greatly. We're going to get this going. It is a year in review of film. Teebs, we've been putting this together for quite some time. This is a year's worth of fucking work that has culminated in this podcast.
That's right. It doesn't seem like this should have taken a year to get to, but apparently that's the case, because took us a while to get here, and, so should we tell the people what we're going to be doing? I will tell the people what we're going to be doing. So
before we tell the people what we're doing, let's bring in third member.
We have to say what we're doing before we do that thing.
Okay, so all right, you're the conductor. You drive this train for once. Thank God. Is this your Christmas gift to me?
What, being the conductor?
Yes.
I was listening to a lot of George Carlin, so I thought I might try my hand at being the conductor for a while.
Oh my God.
Hello out there, ladies and gentlemen. Good listeners.
Jesus Christ.
Of the podcast.
He's putting in the serious voice.
This is, since we're at the end of 2024, it's been been a year full of ups and downs.
Literally,
we figured we do a year in review, kind of summarize things. But we're not going to review 2024 because that would be too easy. We're going to review 1999, the film, because it's 25th anniversary of the year 1999. And here to join us today, someone who was alive in 1999, my friend of the podcast, Vinny Alvendia.
Yeah.
Egg Drop Ramen back in the house.
Egg Drop Ramen Studios fame.
Back in the hizzy.
Vince, how you doing, man? Sorry we couldn't have the cool R&B going, the sex music, but we are a podcast of all ages.
Next time we'll have the sex music.
It's all good. I'm trying to get a vasectomy anyway, so we're good.
How are things with you lately? You haven't been on since the Saturday morning cartoons draft.
Oh, I've had some ups and I've had some downs. But I'm still here. I'm still hanging in there. I grew up in the hood in the 90s and I made it through that. If I can make it through the 1991 to 1994 Tupac years, I think I'm straight.
Not to one-up you or anything like that, but we lived on the East Coast in the mid to late 80s, so I think we kind of have you there.
All right, touche.
I'm just saying.
Touche.
Teebs, why don't you tell the good folks the format that we're going with here?
I have no idea what the format is. That's all you. But what I would like to do is I would like to start off by figuring out. So, Vinny, what were you doing in 1999? What Vinny's life looked like? What was Vinny up to?
Let's see. 0-0 party over. It was out of time. So I made a point to party like it was 1999, but it was actually 1999.
Nice.
No, I was in the Navy.
1999.
You were in the Navy?
I was in the Navy.
Sailing the seven seas?
I was a dry sailor, dude. I was on Naval Air Station Rota, Spain, waiting for the servers to go down, and then they never went down. No, 1999 was dope. Actually, from 97 to 2001 was like a dope era for me in the Navy because I was in Europe. I was snowboarding. I was learning conversational Spanish with the aid of alcohol.
Nice.
So I got to see the world on the Navy's dime. Grew up a little. Matured a little.
Just a little.
It took some detours in life, but it was all in all, it was an amazing period in my life, especially ringing in the new year to Waiting for Tonight, but in Spanish.
So
So
Vince is talking about snowboarding and like doing the world traveling. So it's just all those things that Teebs is enjoying now, on top of having the intern and the butler, the pool guy, several drivers.
Listen,
I believe he has.
you put
I
all
believe he
this
has a
on me.
boat on. I believe he has a boat on the marina
Okay,
now.
listen, do you want to talk all this trash? What were you doing in 1999?
In 1999, I was.
Besides, like, drying behind your ears because you were still wet there.
Yeah, nice. I see. That was one hell of a journey we took for that joke. No, in '99, I would have been in limbo between two universities. I had just failed out of one university. I was just like, okay, the job market
I was
sucks
wondering how you were going to approach that. I was wondering what you were going to say about that.
Listen, the only way to do it is to be honest with the people, okay? Yes,
Okay,
I was bouncing between universities. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life at that time, but I knew that the job market without a college degree sucked. So I made the conscious decision to enroll at Community College of Philadelphia. Shout out CCP Tritons. And yeah, that was the journey, the start of the new journey that led me to San Diego State and meeting fine people like Vince. And then Teebs moved out there and just kind of ruined the whole experience.
Listen, I'm shocked to learn that community college has an actual mascot.
They do.
What was I doing in 99? Glad you asked. I was
just emerging out of the Lazarus pit because you've been on this earth for quite some time.
All right, that was good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, come on. There we go. All right. So yeah,
no,
99.
I was out of college and I was kind of floating, trying to figure out my next move. So, yeah.
And you were still at the video library in 99, were you not? I think so.
See, here's the important thing, and I think this is what really matters. I was working at the movie theater in 99.
Oh, that's right.
Which is what I think makes me feel like, or why I have such a fondness and affinity for 99. But I do think, even outside of this, it's just one of the best years for movies, right. Like, period.
Film, we say 99. Film, we definitely say 99. I want to say 97 for hip hop, probably, and those are like the 2 years for us.
94, 97, yeah.
All right, let's kick this thing into high gear. Let's bounce the throttle up a little bit. Let's get this thing going.
Well, what's the format, first of all?
We have 15 films that we're going to talk about in 99. These were hand-selected by Teebs and KidPhoenix, your host. There will be some things left out. You can get mad at us later. That's fine. And then we can score whatever movies you would like to hear about, and we'll talk about them on a later podcast if it comes up.
But really quickly, I do have a quick list of some movies that we left off of this list.
Okay. Because I didn't really prepare any movies that we left off the list.
These 7 movies didn't make the list, you guys. Okay.
High consideration for many of these.
Existenz by David Cronenberg. Man on the Moon, the Jim Carrey movie.
That's
a fine film. Election, which it'd probably be on a lot of other people's lists, but we're 2 dudes, so that's not on our list.
Yeah, Election was something that I talked about, and then after discussing with Teebs, we were just like, we could probably leave that one off.
Is that the one with Matthew Broderick?
Yeah, Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon.
Okay.
3 Kings, shockingly, we're dudes, and this is not on the list.
Yeah,
The Insider, the most intense movie about the movie with the most intense phone call scenes ever made.
Until Phone Booth with Colin Farrell and Kiefer Sutherland.
No, I think The Insider still beats Audition by Takashi Miike.
That's
Didn't make the list. And finally, this hurt. This hurt a lot, and would be on a lot of people's lists, but it's on my snob list. But since this is not just a list for snobs, being John Malkovich, which
Man, F that movie.
That
wow,
was Wait, that was 99? I totally forgot that was
99,
99. Son of a
99.
bitch. That was a Ritz 5 special is what that was.
That was a Ritz 5 special.
That just goes to explain the quality of film in 99. There was just so much good stuff that we literally cannot
Get it
score
all.
everything.
We've
We
got
would be
15
here.
movies, and those have to get left off.
So, how we're going to do this, we
How we do?
each got the list and it was individually scored. And what we're going to do is we're going to go, because we have to pay the vibes to Big Buzzfeed, we're going to go from 15 to 1. And depending on the length, this could be one podcast. We could split it up into 2 podcasts. We'll see how it goes. But for right now, let's just start with Guy Ritchie's first film, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Between the three of us, this placed 15, and it's only because Vince was not able to score it because he didn't have the opportunity to watch it before. So it's just going to be me and Teebs driving this boat for right now. Vince, you can take a 20 and just like hang out. But if you have anything to add, feel free.
Well, how about this? I don't know what your scores are, depending on what your scores are, but why should I watch this movie? It's been on my radar for like decades, basically, at this point, and I just never got around to it. For whatever reason, I just never got around to watching it. So, why should I watch this movie?
If you are a fan of, crime stories and like heist movies, it's something that's going to be kind of up your alley a little bit. It's based in London, so it definitely has the like grimy look that you would expect from a movie that was made and filmed and developed in the UK. So it has that going for it. It's Jason Statham's, I believe it's his first theatrical role that I really remember him being in.
First movie is definitely the movie where he got the most attention.
Right.
Also, Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie Jones.
Okay, so just imagine that Quentin Tarantino grew up in London instead of Los Angeles.
That's
And like
honestly
that's
a perfect
pretty
comp.
much he would have made this movie first. This is basically English Reservoir Dogs.
That is kind of the perfect comp, actually. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough.
It's actually got more layers than Reservoir Dogs. So I don't know if you're into just like cool people doing cool stuff, or like cool manly dudes doing cool manly dude stuff in London, and you like Cockney accents, like that's the way.
Cockney accents. I will say that Teebs scored this movie a little bit higher than I did. Teebs gave it 60 out of 80, and before we didn't even talk about the categories. So there's story and screenplay, which are 2 different things, and I'll have Teebs explain that because Teebs does it way better than I do.
Okay, so the story of Pulp Fiction is the story would say Jules and Vincent go to the apartment and they get the briefcase. The screenplay is all the other shit that goes into it's like the foot massage thing, the Royale with cheese thing, the Ezekiel 25:17. It's all the actual physical stuff of getting from A to B. The story just says A to B to C. What the screenplay does is it elucidates.
It builds the world.
Yes. Yeah.
There's acting, which is self-explanatory, cinematography, which is self-explanatory, production designs, makeup, costumes, makeup, also self-explanatory, music, and then cultural impact, which is kind of subjective, I feel, but at the same time, yes. Like it's easy to explain.
Subjective, but I feel like there are some movies that hit really hard when they first come out, and then nobody thinks about them ever again. And then there's some movies that do nothing when they first come out, and then like 10 years later, it's like, oh my, like Blade Runner, nobody gave a shit, but like Now it's like this a science fiction touchstone and hallmark. So cultural impact really makes a difference, and I think
So
needs to be thought about when you're thinking about how to grade these movies.
the lowest score I gave Lock, Stock was in costumes and makeup, and I gave that a 4 out of 10. We scored these on a scale of 1 to 10. So costume and makeup, I gave a 4 out of 10. Like, there wasn't anything really exciting about it. It's just, like, guys dressed up in,
Okay,
like,
but
normal
when you
street
when you're
clothes.
thinking about costume design, it's not just like did they make fabulous looking costumes. Like if you're gonna do a Liberace movie, then yeah, your costumes are gonna be fucking phenomenal. But like with Lock, Stock and the costume design, did everything they make contribute to the cool factor of that movie? You know what I mean? Like were all the guys were all the guys cool? Like was Vinnie Jones in his leather suit? Was Rory Breaker in his leather? Did it all like make sense and like
Damn,
help you from the world?
I totally forgot Rory Breaker and his amazing Jerry curl hairstyle. Shit, I should have gave that way more. Production design, music, cultural impact, I gave like middle of the road, like 5 out of 10, just because. I mean, music, like the soundtrack was fine. Had some
Soundtrack's
James
fine.
Brown stuff on there.
I do like
Cultural
the soundtrack
impact,
a lot.
I mean, it kind of made Jason Statham a household name. Guy Ritchie's first film.
It got Guy Ritchie to hook up with Madonna, so you know that's all something.
Teebs, you scored the acting a 9 in this, and I kind of would like to hear what the thought process behind that.
I think that the only reason this movie works is because of the performances, and like that, like the script on its own is it's fine,
It's
and like the
fine.
story is fine, but like I think it really comes down to the performances and how this is acted, which makes it special. So that's why.
So Vince, Lock, Stock, get on it.
Will do.
The next movie is something that all three of us scored. It's number 14. It is the Blair Witch Project.
Okay.
Teebs, as the horror aficionado of the podcast, I feel like we should let you cook a little bit. I'll give you 5 minutes. I'll give you a minute or so to cook.
So on this list, we have two movies that literally changed the way movies were made after they came out. And this is one of them. This movie pretty much invented not just found footage in horror, but like found footage, period. Any found footage. Also, I gave this a 10 in cultural impact because this is the first move. This is actually the first thing that really took advantage of internet marketing. Like, this is the first thing that was like, oh, is this real? Let me go to the internet. Let me go to the website and figure out what's happening here. This is really the first thing that I can think of that I can remember where the internet presence of it was integral, plus around along with the found footage aspect of it. You really had to be there. It's of a time and of a place, but if you were there when it was going on, it was kind of a phenomenon.
Vince, you also scored Blair Witch high in cultural impact. You scored that a 9 along with myself. I mean, what was your interpretation of the film in '99 when you first saw it? Like Steve said, it's something that really had never been done before, and because social media hyped this thing up, it turned into something.
I mean, listen, I am, especially back then, in the infancy of the internet and internet access, I was a big believer in Nessie and Bigfoot and conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
And the marketing was so brilliantly done where, you know, I knew it was put on, but I wanted to believe it was real because
right.
the marketing was so tight. And yeah, and everything it's everything that Atiba said. It changed the way a lot of movies were made. It basically birthed the found footage, you know, genre of filmmaking. And to be honest, it scared the crap out of me. Like it legit creeped me the F out. Again, I was living in Spain when I saw this, and I happened to be renting this house that had a long walk up to the door, surrounded by
God,
freaking trees. So
no.
we're like, we legit had to call up my homeboy and be like, "Hey, are you awake? Can we come over for like we'll bring food, but we don't want to go home yet." It disturbed me on a different level.
Can you imagine?
So yeah, cultural impact, like absolutely.
Can you imagine living in a house that like has a forest in the back
That's
after
where I
this movie?
live, bro. And
No,
we had
absolutely not.
screeching owls. We had screeching
No,
owls.
No,
no.
pass. Hard pass. No, thank you.
So it's like, and where we lived was like basically the backdrop to a Stephen King. I'm pretty sure dead bodies wherever we were renting. I just never ventured that far away from that far off the property.
Also, quick note. I actually started working at the movie theater the summer or kind of the fall after after the Blair
Yeah,
Witch Project. I caught the tail end of it, and from what I heard, there was a lot of vomit.
there was
Was a byproduct.
a lot of
A
bodily
lot of
fluid
vomiting.
exiled.
A lot of
Uh,
yeah.
Aside from cultural impact, I noticed from some of the scores there wasn't a whole lot else redeemable about the film, and I wonder if that's because like it was just like three people in a video camera, right? Like
Well, yeah,
the
like
acting was what it was, the cinematography was what it was, the story, the screenplay, it was pretty much what it was, right? Like there wasn't
well, yeah.
how it was made and how it was marketed was special, but outside of that, I can't. And correct me if I'm wrong. I just didn't find it that special outside of those
Well, yeah.
two aspects.
Well, yeah. I gave the screenplay, the costumes, and music all ones because there's no music.
There's no music.
There's no screenplay. They all improv'd it, and there's not really costumes and makeup. So I mean, you know, if these are our criteria, it's going to hurt this movie a little bit. If we had different criteria, this might rate better. But like, sorry, this is what we decided on.
Uh-huh.
Well, for me, I did it. If it didn't leave that much of an impression on me, I'm a nicer guy than it. I just left it at a 5 because
Wow,
it's like neither here nor there. Like
wow.
for me
Yeah.
to go below 5, I would have to have impressionably hated it. But 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 you're right though. It's like this isn't a movie I would watch over and over. And honestly, after the initial viewing is the best viewing, and then
Yeah.
after that, it loses steam after because the whole fun of it is not no again by nature of how it was filmed is not knowing what's around the corner. But once you kind of know the gimmicks, it loses a lot of its magic.
Can you imagine a movie like that coming out now with social media the way it is?
I
People
think it
would
would have
even
hit
be able
harder.
to enjoy it? No,
I think it would have hit harder.
I feel the opposite. I feel like social media would ruin this movie simply because like people would be talking about how the movie ended like all the time, and it
Oh,
ruins
that okay.
the specialness for anybody that
But
watches it for the first time.
I get you. I think, but marketing wise, if it came out now, if you had the right social media team, this movie would
Probably
have
hits
been
way harder.
unstoppable.
if this came out now, it wouldn't be a movie. It would just be like 9 TikTok clips. And then you wouldn't know if it's real or no, for real. Like you wouldn't know if it's real or not. It would be on TikTok and people would consume it that way. I think the fact that it happened during a time when people still had a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? They thought that the internet was not completely full of shit. They just didn't.
So they
They
still
just
had a certain naive.
yes, they had a certain naivety about the internet. Like,
The
oh, it's
good
on the
old
internet.
days.
This must be true. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Roby's
Now,
Killer at yahoo.com. See if it still works.
now, now we move to a movie that scored 20 points higher than this, and it's still number 13. And that's American Pie. I thought this would rate higher for the three of us, but apparently it did not. It's so many heavy hitters in this group. Of the three of us, Vince actually scored this the lowest. So, from what I'm looking at your scores, it just seemed like an average teenage comedy to you.
It did. To me, I don't know. I don't know if it was like if I was just spoiled by John Hughes.
Mm,
Once I got with what the movie was going for, the humor was kind of, if I'm being real, and I know people that love this movie and love the whole franchise, but for me, it was very hit or miss. There were moments that I laughed my ass off, and I was, can we curse?
Yeah.
yes.
Keep it to the minimum? Okay. But there are moments where I
We're allotted
laughed my ass
5
off.
F words per podcast. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, there you go. But it was, there were moments where like I was genuinely like laughing, like belly laughing. And then if I'm being honest, there were parts where I was like, that's kind of corny and lame. To me, the biggest, where everyone's like, oh my God, the iconic, he's humping the apple pie. It's like, dude, it's in the title.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, when are they going to get this in? My favorite gotcha moment of the movie was, the band camp, when that finally, hit its punch. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't see that coming, pun intended. But but other than that, it was like, it's kind of just raunchy for raunchiness sake, But I did scored high on the cultural impact because MILF to this day.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
people
think of
still live with it. Yeah.
It's a category in mature films that I've heard of that I do not peruse. But it still holds currency in today's culture, and that's why, even though I kind of scored down the middle, it got a 9 on cultural impact.
I never even thought about, you mentioned John Hughes. I never even thought about that aspect, how, like, Teebs and I, we grew up with John Hughes films, with, like, The Breakfast Club, with movies like that. And I guess it's different for Teebs for American Pie, because unlike those John Hughes movies, like, the parents were actually in this movie.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit different. But, Teebs, when you first saw American Pie, honestly, my favorite moment in the film was the Shannon Elizabeth dance scene, like right in the middle. That's where I was just like, all right, this is fucking fantastic. It can't get any better than this. It was fucking funny, and it was just hilarious to see Jason Biggs like literally act like an awkward teenager that has like a naked girl in his room for the first time. Like that was point for point how it happens for a lot of people.
Look, I think that this movie, I think what happened was we used to do this movie a lot in the 80s and the early 80s. There used to be a lot of this kind of raunchy teen comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Then everybody got uptight and depressed for a while in the 90s. And then 97 Something About Mary comes out, and that really reignites the whole raunchy comedy thing. And American Pie comes along and picks up the torch and keeps it going. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I have not thought about this movie until we started this exercise. I don't, like, it's fine. It's fine.
Fine.
It's fine. But, like...
Well, if I may,
yeah.
I didn't care about any of these characters. If I'm being real, I had a window into their lives, but I wasn't invested like I was in Claire and Bender, and Farmer Ted, and those characters were endearing. I was invested in like their journeys in the movies, and I wondered like how they were, outside of that story, to the point where it's like, growing up, it's like he's the Bender of our group, you know what I
Right.
mean, or he's the Farmer
Right.
Ted of our group. Whereas in American Pie, it's like they're just all horny teenagers.
Right.
It feels
Right.
a little one note, you know what I mean?
And that's kind of the thing about American Pie, because all these characters feel like that, like characters. They don't feel like real people that you know. Actually, there's a movie called Can't Hardly Wait. You guys know it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The characters in that feel more like people that I knew than anybody in American Pie.
Yes.
That's fair. All right. Moving on is a little movie. I think this was this Heath Ledger's first movie?
I don't know if it was his first movie, but it was definitely the one where he got the most attention.
10 Things I Hate About You. It's Heath Ledger. It's Julia Stiles. It is the, for lack of a better phrase, the high school interpretation of Taming of the Shrew.
I have a question.
Yes.
What the hell happened to Julia Stiles? Did she get abducted by aliens? What the hell happened? She disappeared.
She's running a covert office, handling Jason Bourne. Excuse you.
Right.
That's
so
right.
She has to be off the radar.
That's
right. You're welcome. Pull that out of my pocket.
That's what it is.
I totally forgot about that.
She's in the covert ops. She works for the company.
There you go.
I honestly thought that I hadn't seen her since Save the Last Dance, but then Vince brought up the Bourne movie, so it's like, okay, there now, Julie Stiles, okay.
I forgot. Save the Last Dance, where Julia Stiles single-handedly defeats racism.
Yeah.
With hip hop, with interpretive dance.
Yeah.
But this is obviously just another take of William Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, and for that I gave for that the story for me was kind of weak. Like I gave that like a 5 I gave that like a 6. But then the screenplay, because Taming of the Shrew is actually one of my favorite Shakespearean plays, that's kind of where I was just like, all right, perfect 10 for that one. And the blending of current day with that, sort of not as directly as just saying, this is Leo DiCaprio and we're doing Romeo and Juliet. Like there's no hidden whatsoever. Like you have to actually watch 10 Things to really notice, oh, this is really Taming of the Shrew with high school kids. And to its credit, it works in that fashion. How else does it work? I'm gonna open up the panel for that one, because I kind of rated this like middle of the road a lot of
places. This middle of the road. I don't recall watching this end to end. So again, I'm not a teen comedy or a teen drama guy, so this wasn't on my radar. It does have a bunch of charming moments, and Larry Miller is undefeated in this movie.
He's undefeated in this movie. So Vince, you had both American Pie and 10 Things in the same year. Did you like one over the other, or was it like two completely different experiences for you?
Okay, I remember them for different reasons. I think 10 Things I Hate About You came out first, right? Before
10 Things was first.
Yeah.
10 Things was first.
I love and hate the fact that I associate Hypnotize with this movie now. But I am one of, I guess, I'm turning Sabrina onto it now. She's kind of coming around to it. But I happen to be a big fan of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And as far as like reworks of like classics and putting it in a modern context, that's why because I saw what they're trying to do. I mean, 10 Things I Hate About You, Taming of the Shrew, it's kind of on the nose. But also Clueless did it better.
Clueless much better.
Clueless did it better. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, to me, did it better. Was it? Well, what was Steve Martin's version of Cyrano de Bergerac?
Was The Jerk?
Was it? I think it was The Jerk. That did it better. You know what I mean? There
have been better independent adaptations of modern Shakespearean ideas.
Yeah, this one it has its moments, but again, it's just like American Pie. Everybody, to me anyway, comes off as one note, and there's nothing uber. Again, the most memorable thing to me is Julia Stiles on the table, drunk and dancing to Hypnotize and knocking herself out on the chandelier, and that's like my main memory of. And also, it might be a generational thing because my partner is 10 years younger than me, and she loves this movie. Like, she has fond memories of this movie. And when I watched it with her, I enjoyed it in a different way because I saw it through her eyes. But personally, when I first saw it, and whenever it would come on on TBS or what have you, it was like I don't hate the movie, but it's not one I would seek out.
I also, we keep talking about like a lot of these like teen comedies are like kind of one note and they're kind of like one thin line versus the John Hughes stuff of the 80s where it's just like, yeah, they're teen comedies but they're extremely layered with like tone and what each character is individually going through, like even just like 16 Candles, there are like 4 different stories going on in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow John Hughes made that shit work.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, and this is like the height of the MTV generation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then it felt like they were going too much for the like the cultural references. The that are like of their time, which is why some of these don't age well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas, like, again, I hate to keep bringing it, but like the John Hughes stuff, it's of its time, but you can relate at its core. You can relate to what the characters are going through. Whereas these, the experience, the characters seem to be in a homogenized experience. They're all going through the same thing.
And
So
then
it's
this
like it's just
generation,
hard to pick it apart. Yeah.
and then these last couple of generations, like it's YouTube and TikTok. That's pretty much all they're exposed to now. Like they don't really
Mm-hmm.
have these coming of age teenage comedies like they used to.
It's a short. It's like I'm wondering, like when this generation has this nostalgia movies, is it going to be a bunch of scenes of people on their phones?
Maybe.
There's no human interaction that I can, and that's my get off the lawn side coming up. You know what I mean? It's like y'all don't talk to each other anymore. You're just buried in a phone. You know what I mean? It's like
go outside. Jesus.
Yeah, get some sun. Get into trouble. Break some laws. I don't know.
Get dirty. All right.
We're not. The Teebs and KidPhoenix podcast does not advocate any of our listeners breaking any laws.
The hell we don't. Fuck shit up.
Okay, Vince may advocate for that independently by himself, but the Teebs and KidPhoenix podcast does not promote the breaking of laws, either known or unknown. Let's move on to the Iron Giant. That's 11 in scoring. Iron Giant was an interesting animated movie because when it came out, I can't think of a like mature animated movie in the scope of Iron Giant. Like I watched the Iron Giant and I immediately thought, this is just animated E.T. That's how I saw it. And to its credit, again, it's something that probably shouldn't have worked. Like it had all the E.T. vibes, but it made me leave the theater with like a warm feeling and just like the power of Vin Diesel's voice and just like him coming.
His best acting.
Yeah. That shit he's ever done. That's true. That is true. Pitch Black is dope.
Was the production design, and I feel like that's me just giving a nod to the animators of that film, because the drawing, the atmosphere, like how things were made to look in that movie were spectacular. And
Conversely,
it wasn't like your usual like Disney Pixar nonsense. Like it looked like it was something for, you know, 19-year-old Adio. Like that was for me.
conversely, I gave this fun in costumes and makeup because there were no costumes and makeup. It's an animated feature.
Listen,
So mean.
Listen, what am I supposed to do there?
You are an animator, for Christ's sake.
But there's no cost. Okay. There's no actual costumery.
But they drew the costumes and they did a fine job because they're of the period.
So I put it in production design. But drawing a costume was not the same as being in there sewing some shit.
Wow, Teebs, you are ruthless, man.
Seriously, okay, Simon Cowell. Jesus.
Wow. I'm Simon Cowell?
Yes!
Okay.
You're like making little kids cry.
we're gonna have
Killing Dreams.
So wait,
we're
if
gonna
I'm
have.
Simon, wait. If I'm Simon Cowell,
Don't try to figure this out. Don't.
then Vinny is Randy Jackson, and the Dio
Wow.
is Paula
Wow.
Abdul.
Wow. Vince is Randy Jackson. Really?
No, hell no. I
Yeah,
Jeez.
know.
Okay.
No, I am
All
Heidi
right.
Klum. How dare you?
he called me dog like 4 times already. I don't know.
Vince, what do you remember about the Iron Giant when it came out compared to like Pixar movies
Everything.
and other Disney films that have been in there?
Everything. I think the movie's so underrated. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
It's one of the movies. I gave it a 9 on cultural impact because I feel like because it was such an underrated movie and it has such a cult following, it's one of the movies that pointed out to audiences, young and old, that kids aren't stupid. You can tell a layered, deep
Yeah.
story to children and they'll be able to follow it. And this movie had a huge heart, had so many amazing moments. I mean, a monosyllabic giant robot made you cry at the end. You know what I mean? And the characters were so human. Jennifer Aniston, like, Hogarth's mom doesn't get enough credit for how she was written. Jennifer Aniston's performance as is
Yeah.
about a realistic single mother. Harry Connick Jr. being the cool, artsy beatnik. What wasn't there to love about this movie? And of its time, it had a, how do I say this? If I had a visual library or dictionary I could equate it to, it felt very Stand By Me. The way it was shot, the way the colors, how it was of its time so perfectly. It's
That's a great comp.
I could gush all over this movie because it
Please
the
don't. This is
story
a
is,
family podcast.
but this movie does not get enough credit for making such kind of a simple, straightforward story. Like you said, it's E.T. And easily people could be like, oh, it's just another E.T. alien, kid meets alien and blah, 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 they fall in love and, this thing has a heart or there's a heart within the machine type story.
Yeah.
But it really does suck you in almost against your will. So that's why I give it such high marks.
What I will say is, it's a great movie. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you guys have said. One of the things that I want to talk about, or that I want to say, is there's kind of this debate going on in the video game industry saying, well, hey, we pushed realism about as far as we can go. What can we do now? Like, you could literally make the Iron Giant with today's technology. You can make a game that looks exactly like the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
How about that? How about some of that? I would play that. I would absolutely play that.
Yeah, I'm tired of crying over Last of Us. Give me something else to cry over. Jeez.
All right. Next on the list. I believe this is the first sequel that came up. Austin Powers 2. The Spy Who Shagged Me. Okay. I'm gonna start this off because Vince scored it the lowest out of the three of us. I was middle of the road. Teebs rated this higher than Teebs was high vote here. 62 out of 80. Teebs was high vote here.
I think that might be because I saw it in the theater, and my experience of seeing it in the theater and all of those, like, so many of those jokes hit, and it was such a fun time in theater that, like, I don't think I've laughed more in a theater than I did during Spy Who Shagged Me. It was literally the funniest thing that we had seen. I don't know if you guys remember, but for a solid 2 years after this movie came out, you could not go on any college campus or be in a group of more than 3 dudes without somebody quoting this movie. Like,
Yeah.
that was just facts. And
yet you only gave it a 7 for cultural impact.
because now it's nothing.
Yeah.
No one thinks about this movie. So that's why you got to ding it on cultural impact. Like when it first came out, nobody would shut up, and now nobody talks about it. Like,
I remember seeing this in the theater. I don't know if I was with Teebs at the time. I'm pretty sure we saw Gold Member together. I'm pretty sure
not
that
the
was the thing
same,
that
not as
happened.
good.
Not as good. It was the jokes hit a lot, to Teebs' point. The jokes hit a lot harder than the first Austin Powers movie, but Jay Roach, like they kind of knew like what worked after that first one, and they just said, you know what, let's just double down on that, and it worked.
Right. Well, with Austin Powers 2, I feel like, yeah, they do kind of have it figured out. They have this character figured out. They have this world figured out, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Can we just talk about Heather Graham? Can we just talk about peak Heather Graham
There
for
we
a
go.
second?
See,
Peak
there we
Heather
go.
Graham.
That's why. That's why.
Can we talk about Boogie Nights followed up by Austin Powers 2? Can we discuss that?
Wait, was that no Boogie Nights followed by Austin 2 back to back? I thought there was
I
one
think
more
so.
movie in there. Like
If there
that,
was, I
like
don't know what it is.
you just retire after that. Like
Yeah,
I'm
you
done.
just let it go.
You just like I can't do anything better here. All three of us kind of had costumes and makeup scored pretty high, and that kind of speaks to. I'm gonna start with Vince. That kind of speaks to just like the world they created, like going back in time to the '60s.
Yeah. No,
Not
absolutely.
not a ton of movies were doing that, but like that's probably one of the better representations of the 1960s in film.
Again, it's a super stylized representation. Like it's the Austin Powers version of the '60s, and they do a great job of bringing that to life.
Yeah. No, and the character makeup, making whole characters, iconic characters around them, with makeup and everything, having transforming Mike Myers and other characters was
And
amazing.
that's the
And
thing. Like they have to de-age a lot of the cast to make
Hmm.
them look like their '60s
yeah,
counterparts. Which
except for Rob Lowe because he doesn't age. Period.
Yeah, that guy. But
That freaking guy.
I went middle of the road with it because I was in the. I know I'm of the minority in this group of my opinion, but I liked the first movie as it was. I know why sequels had to happen, and I know how this machine works, but I
Yeah,
would have been very happy if the first movie was it, and that was it. To me, that was already. I there were elements that they did improve upon in the second movie, but the charm of the first movie, had it been a standalone movie, I think would have given more impact if it didn't have these other things to try and share the shine with it.
and
I
then I
agree
don't.
with that. There's actually a movie coming up that I'd like to get your opinion on with a topic pertaining to that. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Dia.
So I don't want to say Gold Member kind of ruined it, but like I feel like Gold Member, and I'm just glad they just stopped at 3 because it just seemed like the well had gone dry on that series after the third.
Yes, it turned into like it was what it was like the mistake that a lot of sequels do, where too much. We're trying to shove way too much into one story. Like we can get this star and this, and by then it was a thing. Every person that was hot wanted to be in this movie.
Yeah,
Hence Beyonce. You can tell when they're trying to cram too many elements.
and then the teasing of a possible Austin Powers 4 with like Seth Green taking over the like. I'm just glad they didn't push that any further. Like if they
No,
did that with Austin Powers 4, it would have been a travesty.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It seems like we're down on these movies. Don't look. Look.
All right, okay,
You're not
fine.
going to go
We're
wrong
we're still on the
watching
bottom.
any of
We're still
these things.
on the bottom end though.
We're
It's
talking
gonna
We're
get
about.
better.
We're talking
We're
about.
still at the bottom end.
We're literally picking that shit out of pepper here.
Dude,
Like all the movies are fun.
I glazed all over Iron Giant. So
Okay.
There was some Krispy Kreming going on back there.
thank you. And ew.
So here's my time to do a little unexpected glazing here when we get into the next film, and that's Dogma.
You wanted this on here.
Okay. I am on record. I am on physical record, videotape record, audio recorded record in my stance that Dogma is Kevin Smith's best movie. 100%. Do not like, you know that meme? I have a sign at my table. Dogma is Kevin Smith's best film. Talk me out of it. I'm telling you, you can't. From my perspective, the screenplay of this movie is absolutely fantastic. It is outstanding. Between the writing of Kevin Smith, the interactions between Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, their interactions with Jay and Silent Bob, as well as like Chris Rock is in this movie, Alan Rickman is in this movie. There's a whole cast of characters in this movie, and it's just brilliantly done. And speaking of somebody that grew up Catholic, I laughed my ass off at this film because of all the pot shots taken at Christianity. Like, I could appreciate the hell out of that. And the fact that,
all three of us are recovering Catholics, aren't we? So
Yeah.
right. And the fact that the main character, played by Linda Fiorentino, is essentially a recovering Catholic, that is something that most Catholics can relate to when they hit that certain age where they're just like, all right, this shit just ain't for me anymore. Like, I could relate to it. The jokes hit, they were funny, and I know Kevin Smith says a lot about this, and he's just like, listen, man, we had a rubber poop monster in this movie, and somehow the production studios, they went along with it. The Golgothan shit demon, fantastic. Outstanding work by Kevin Smith. This is Kevin Smith's best movie.
I do agree that this is definitely Kevin Smith's biggest risk that he's ever taken as far as the screenplay goes, and I do feel like it's personal on a level that's above the Clerks. Is like, I think Clerks is his best movie, but Clerks is like a cool level that like Kevin Smith just actually isn't at. The same thing with like some of his other films, or Mallrats.
Like Mallrats.
Mallrats is might be like what his experience was, but I feel like Dogma's the actual like to not to the actual soul of the man. You see what I did there? And I do feel like this speaks a lot about, his philosophy and what he thinks about, and like I do think it's probably weirdly enough his most personal movie, but I don't think I still think Clerks is the best.
Vince, would you concur with Clerks versus Dogma?
For me personally, I'm not going to project this on anybody, but for me personally, I can separate them, because Clerks was like my introduction to Kevin Smith, and that was a movie that made me a Kevin Smith fan. Mm-hmm. This movie made me a fan of how he sees things and how he interprets things. On a personal level, this movie helped me understand my own personal crisis of faith and process that, because this came at a time where, I grew up Catholic, Roman Catholic, Filipino, you know what I mean? Like, my world was Catholic, exactly. And oddly enough, this movie and interviews that he's given about this movie made me feel okay with questioning my faith. Whereas before this, I thought I was going straight to hell. Like, I felt like lesser. But you get what I'm saying? Because I was raised so deeply Catholic.
Yeah.
I was like, what is wrong with me? I was almost having an identity crisis around my Catholicism, and this movie told me, yeah, exactly. And this movie was like, it's okay to question that. It's almost your responsibility to question that.
Yeah.
And you see it through the lens of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's characters, And also, this gave Jay and Silent Bob a heart and a soul that I didn't realize you could give those together.
No one ever expected from those two.
Exactly. I mean, they run shit up, and they have to cut the tension with the jokes and stuff. But this is where to me, this is one of those movies where those two characters shine. Other than Mallrats, those two characters shine in this movie. They have a humanity where, like, those guys are idiots, but you know what? They're kind of down human beings. You know what I mean?
All right. So now that Vince has done his unexpected glazing, I've done my unexpected glazing. Teebs, you're up because we're talking about Eyes Wide Shut next. A movie
Oh,
that Teebs scored a whole 10 points higher than either of us. So Teebs, here's a box of Krispy Kremes. Go for it.
I'm gonna tell you something, fellas.
God,
oh, here we go.
buckle in. Strap in, folks. Here we go.
I even leaned in for this, man. Come on.
This is my favorite Christmas movie.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're done here. Good night, everybody.
I am on edge. I'm dying to hear this.
Thank y'all for coming out. God bless. Good night.
It's about forgetting. Okay, the movie is about going beyond oneself,
He's struggling.
beyond one's selfish desires, to truly embrace what the season is about. It's about family and love, like real love. It's not about catching some strange in like at a cleaner's at 3 a.m. or going to some weird orgy with masks. That's not the spirit. The spirit is home, having sex with people that you really love, your wife. And
Oh, God. Stop it, please.
listen,
Oh my God.
this movie's fantastic.
Ugh.
Okay, I think a lot of people. So, Vinny, I don't think you like this movie as much as I do.
Oh, I loved it.
Clearly.
Nicole Kidman.
Okay, great.
Naked Nicole Kidman. Full stop. I'm in. I can't say I saw the rest of the movie, but it was paused for a significant amount of time.
It's like the most pretentious movie there's ever been.
I will give it that. That's for damn sure.
Yes, it's pretentious, but at the same time, there's a lot of things for like the blue collar male to enjoy.
Naked Nicole Kidman.
Oh my God.
And then
But I think what that means is it's hitting on a lot of things that a lot of people experience. Like, I don't know if either of you have
Were you just going to say something that a lot of people experience? Those words were about to come out of your mouth.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I've definitely been in relationships with people that I was like 95% sure were cheating on me. And this is exactly what it's like. This movie is exactly what it is like. You're out there, you're roaming the streets, you're like, I gotta get back at her somehow. I'll put on a mask and go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Let's go.
God.
This has to happen. Like, that's the mind state you get in. And it's just, I never seen like that level of like that particular feeling illustrated as well as in this.
All right, I will say the story and the screenplay, top notch. I will give it that, but a lot of that has to do with Kubrick, so kind of have to give credit where credit's due on that one. I'm definitely here for some NNK for sure, 100%. I'm down with that. Maybe it was just something that I wasn't like. I've seen it, and I've seen it after the fact.
Let me ask you this. Okay,
it's not. It's decent. I didn't find it particularly special, but maybe that's just me.
You're gonna poo-poo this movie. Let me ask you this. If you just happen to be watching Tubi, and the taxi cab pulls up in front of the mansion at the gate, Are you turning it? Are you turning on something else? No, you're not. You're
No,
watching it
I'm
from
not.
there till the end.
No, I'm
You're
not.
watching the whole rest of that
Yeah.
movie. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way you're missing that scene. You're just not missing it.
So, see, this movie, for an uncouth heathen like myself, it was just over my head. It really, and I'm being totally
Yeah.
honest here, it was over my head. I see why people love it, but it's for reasons that I can't, like, it's in the way where I walk into somebody's house, and if I see a shelf full of Criterion stuff, I'm like, I need some Adam
I feel
Sandler.
attacked. I feel attacked right now.
It's like, I can't spell troglodyte, but
Vince,
it's, yeah.
surely you have more love in your heart for a movie where Nicole Kidman bangs a sailor in broad daylight
Okay, yeah.
in front of everyone.
I give it an 8 for cinematography. Come on now. I gave it its flowers.
Okay, so this is hilarious, by the way. This is definitely going to be a 2-part podcast, and we're going to round out
Listen, I'm just saying, next holiday season, when the kids are around and everybody's hanging out,
when the
waiting for something to
kids
watch,
are around.
fire this up. Just
My
fire it
God.
up.
All
It'll
right,
definitely get people talking.
that's for
sure it will.
sure.
People will
That's for
definitely.
sure.
Talking to CPS, the cops, there'll be wellness
Yeah,
checks.
wellness check.
People will definitely not be on their phones anymore after this. If that's,
No
if that's your
shit.
plan.
Okay, so we're gonna end part 1 with one last film, and the scoring gods have blessed us here because amazing segue. The next movie, and we just started the top 10. The next movie is Toy Story 2. I swear to God it is. I don't know how this happened, but we've gone from Eyes Wide Shut to Toy Story 2.
Amazing.
I scored this higher than anybody, and that's because I am on this hill and I am going to die on this hill, and I don't care. Toy Story 2 is the best movie that Pixar has ever created. Period. Full stop. Full stop.
False. What?
Toy Story 2 is number 1 for me.
You've got Up and The Incredibles outside your door right now.
That's
wanting
fine.
to have a word.
That's fine. Listen, Mr. Incredible, y'all can come at me all you want. Toy Story 2, for me, 100% the best movie that Pixar has ever done. And that is reflected in the fact that I gave it a perfect 10 in cultural impact.
This got a 10 in cultural impact.
100% it did.
How is this a 10 in cultural impact? Please explain that.
Because the success of Toy Story and Toy Story 2 allowed Pixar to experiment with ideas like the Incredibles, like Cars, like Up, films of that nature. Like Toy Story, the original was a hit. Toy Story 2 was an extension of that, where again, what we talk about sequels all the time, expand the universe and raise the stakes. And Toy Story 2 definitely did both of those things. And it allowed for, listen, cultural impact is a 10. They're still making Toy Story films, okay? They're doing Toy Story 5 or 6 now? Like, this franchise has withstood the test of time better than most movies that started in the 1990s.
Okay. If you say to me, Toy Story 2 murdered cel-drawn animation, it literally murdered and crucified hand-drawn animation, and that's its cultural impact, I might let you live with it being that high. I see your point. I get where you're coming from. I get it. There's an argument to be made there.
You and Vince scored this similarly. I will point that out.
Because a lot of people don't think about Toy Story 2 as much. Like, you think about Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 3.
3.
Right?
I would argue Toy Story 2 is better than Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 2 might be better, but Toy Story 3 has that
certainly
that moment.
4. Yeah.
Toy Story 3 has the moment.
Just say it. Like, Toy Story 3 came out in the early 2000s. You can spoil it. It's fine. Everybody's seen the movie.
Toy Story 3 has the moment where all the toys almost die and, like, everybody almost, like, loses their shit and then, like, yeah. But Toy Story 2, again, like, what does it have?
It has Toy Story 2, and I scored it low, and I will admit it might be unfairly low for me because Toy Story 2 is another one of those where I feel like if the franchise stopped there, it would have been perfect.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a need for a third one because Toy Story 2 expanded on the characters and humanized the toys even more. And I felt that the ending was, how do I say it? And I feel like Toy Story 3 and all the other sequels are kind of a product, an indirect or direct product of the Snyder effect.
Mm.
Where we gotta bring people down, where we gotta put people in peril. What I like about Toy Story 2 and how it ended is where Toy Story 3 misses the mark for me is, and I get it, the whole, he hands his toys down to the next generation to play, whatever. What I loved about Toy Story 2 is what I embody in my life. You don't have to freaking grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can take that with you. And that was the whole thing. And that's why Jesse's arc was so heartbreaking. You put away childish things, but the end of that movie kind of gave you that message of, you really don't.
Yeah.
Right.
You can hang on to that, and it's fine. And for me, when it was kind of a counter message to Toy Story. The way 3 ended was a counter to that. It's like, oh, Andy's got to grow up, so he's got to leave all this behind. It didn't have. They could have framed it as, I'm giving these toys to you, but don't get it twisted. That kid's still in me. But
Yeah.
it feels like to me he was handing off his childhood. Like, I'm done with this. I'm moving beyond this now. Like, laters. You know what I mean? And I didn't like that. And that's why
Fair.
I felt like it should have ended with 2. I kind of give it middle of the road because to me 1 and 2 are kind of the same movie, if I'm being real.
I see your point there.
Yeah, it's the same movie that just got cut into 2 for runtime. But if you play them right after each other, it's still a cohesive long ass film. You know,
It is one big giant like fusion of like. Yeah, I totally agree. Like if Toy Story was like 3-hour long movie, it would 100% be 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I like how, to me, the way I'm probably reading into it. I'm definitely reaching, but what's her name? Why am I blanking on the female cowboy? But her character,
Isn't that Jessie?
Jessie. Thank you, Jessie. Yes. So to me, Jesse's arc was so like, it was so heartbreaking because of that whole message. I was like, don't let your childhood go. Like, hang on to it. Like you can grow up and still hang on to that and keep it precious, but tossing it aside and like that heartbreaking, the freaking song on top of that, like to this day I hear that song and I'm like crying, and it's like, geez, like the soundtrack to my divorce.
Christ! Wow! What a fine way to end this portion. To end part 1 of the podcast. Vince correlating Toy Story 2 soundtrack to his future divorce. Sorry. Apologies to Vince's partner on that. Now you're not going to be surprised if you hear that in the car.
No, I know my first marriage. Anyway.
On that lovely, lovely note, this is going to end part 1. Merry Christmas, everybody. This is being released on Christmas Day, by the way. Part 2 will come out on New Year's Day, which is just fantastic planning by us. Listen, like, follow, subscribe to the podcast. Links will be in the descriptions, including Vince's links for Egg Drop Ramen Studios. Wonderful, wonderful artist and speaker, collaborator, just all around genius human being. We'll be back next week for part 2, and until next week, we are going to get out of here. Is the Teebs and KidPhoenix versus podcast. Until next week, part 2, 99. Let's do it.